After going 9-4 in 2021, Army took a bit of a step back in 2022, going just 6-6 and missing out on a bowl game for just the second time since 2016. But now with 17 starters back and a new look offense, Jeff Monken could have the Black Knights back in the postseason. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including those expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, being out 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 5 years. You do not want to miss out on those picks, guys. Guaranteed winning record, guaranteed return on your investment, guaranteed money in your pocket by the end of the season. You do not want to miss out on that deal. A year-long subscription for one of the cheapest prices in the country. Check out our Patreon account as well for exclusive college football content year-round. Join our Patreon wall of fame. Do not miss out on that content that will only be posted to Patreon. And also, check out the mailing address down in the description. Send us some gear to expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. We'd love to get some military academy gear, Army, Navy, Air Force, guys like that, as we continue to expand. We already have a handful of teams, even some NFL gear as well, sent in by some viewers. We'd love to get some more. Check out that mailing address and send it out so that can be in every single video all season long. So let's take a look at Army. I always love breaking down our military academies. I always love breaking down the Black Knights and what Jeff Monken has done with this program. And, you take a look at Army this year. Offensively, it's interesting. A couple of rule changes in the NCAA is making Army and Navy and guys like that change their offensive style. So Army kind of shifting from that triple option that we've been so accustomed to seeing to more of a run zone option, primarily out of the shotgun. So you're going to see Army actually throwing the ball a little bit more this year. Still going to be a run-heavy team, but not like we've seen in years past. Army will be throwing the ball more than we've seen in years past. They lose their star Tyler at quarterback, who was a leading rusher last year as well. Bryson Daly more than likely stepping in to fill that quarterback void. The offensive line, as always, extremely solid. Tyson Riley and the bruiser, Jacoby Buchanan, back at running back to kind of lead the rushing for Army. 289 rushing yards per game last year. Those numbers actually might take a minor step back, but again, Army's still going to be a primarily run-first team. Defensively, typically pretty strong. 22.5 points per game. That's all the Black Knights allowed last year, but they gave up 199 rushing yards per game. Granted, yes, they did face more pass-heavy teams, or run-heavy teams. They faced, guys like Navy. They faced Air Force. Obviously, have to compete for the Commander-in-Chief trophy. But the rushing defense definitely has to improve. 8 starters back, strong secondary, strong defensive line. I do expect those numbers to improve by season's end. You take a look at the schedule, though. The stats could improve. The new look could actually help Army, but will the record improve with a very, very difficult schedule? I mean, look at that. At UTSA, at Syracuse, Boston College, Troy, who won 12 games last year and is the reigning Sun Belt champion, at LSU, Coastal Carolina. I mean, this is a tough schedule, tougher than usual for Army this year. They opened up the year at ULM, a team they beat by 24 points last year, 48-24. And I'm going to give Army the win here, despite the game being on the road. This is a Warhawks team that loses a lot. They lose their quarterback. They lose their top 2 rushers. They lose 5 of their top 7 pass catchers from last year. And the Warhawks defense gave up 195 rushing yards per game, including 441 rushing yards to Army in last year's meeting. So with the kind of depleted offense and defense that I don't think is going to improve that much, Army should start the year 1-0, and they will start the year 2-0 with a win over Delaware State. I feel very confident about that. Then they go on the road to UTSA, one of the better teams in the group of 5, could win the American Conference in their first year in the conference as they make that transition from Conference USA to the American. Last year's game was a thriller. Back and forth, Army lost to the Roadrunners 41-38 in overtime. Their defense gave up 512 yards of offense. The sad thing is, the scary thing is, UTSA's offense might be even better than it was last year. 16 starters back total, including 8 on offense. Their star quarterback and Frank Harris returns. They returned 4 of their top 5 pass catchers. 36.8 points per game for the Roadrunners last year, 144 rushing yards per game. A pass-heavy team under Jeff Traylor, but balanced at that. I just don't think Army has enough to go on the road and beat the Roadrunners. On the road's tough enough as it is. This team has the chance to be better than they were last year, which won the Conference USA, but also is struggling to get that bowl win. It's kind of been elusive for them. I do think they defeat the Black Knights, though, with home field advantage. And I believe Army takes their second loss in a row on the road at Syracuse. A Syracuse team that, 7 starters back on defense is really, really good for Dino Babers' squad. They gave up 144 rushing yards per game. So I think Army puts up some points and some yards on the Orange. But eventually the strength of the Power 5, the strength up front for Syracuse wears down Army. Also, the benefit of being in the Carrier Dome helps them as well. So they beat Army, and the Black Knights are 2-2 heading into the bye week. Not a bad mark. Pretty solid. Coming out of the bye week, they take on Boston College. I'll tell you right now, Boston College and Troy, back-to-back home games, Army's going to split them. Let's go ahead and say that right now. They will beat one of these teams and lose to one of them. I don't think they beat both. You look at Boston College, it isn't an odd team. They went 3-9 last year, but they were much better than their record showed, and they were just depleted by injuries last year. Boston College couldn't be consistent. They couldn't stay healthy. It was just a bad year for Jeff Hafley. But now 15 starters are back. Everywhere for Boston College should be improved. Offensively, defensively, special teams. Everything's going to be better for Boston College. I think they beat Army here. I do think they beat Army. Despite the bye week for the Black Knights, I think BC comes in and gets the win at Michie Stadium. I just don't think Army has enough to take them down if BC lives up to the expectations and lives up to their potential. Which means, based on the logic we just gave you, we do believe Army beats Troy at Michie Stadium the very next week. Army should have defeated Troy on the road last year. Keep in mind, this is a Troy team that won the Sun Belt Conference, beat UTSA in their bowl game, 12 games last year. Won 12 games last year, 12-2. They own a very large win, I think, 9-10 game winning streak heading into the season, or heading into 2023. This Troy team's good. But Army, last year on the road, was beating Troy 9-0. The defense was doing everything they could to win the game, and they blew it. Army losing 10-9, missed the potential game-winning field goal with just 15 seconds left. Troy loses a handful of starters on both sides of the ball, more so defensively than offensively. And I think Army, slowly but surely, can wear down the Trojans. They should have won last year. I don't think they let this game get away from them at home. They have to defend home field if they want to go bowling. They will do that. They take down Troy. And again, if you don't think they'll beat Troy, fine. Give them the win over Boston College. But they are not losing both. But I like their odds against the Trojans a little bit more than the Eagles. On the road to LSU, I think we can chalk that up as a loss. As LSU, reigning SEC West champions, an elite team once again, a legitimate playoff contender this year. It'll be intriguing. Army's given Michigan a run for their money in recent years. They give Oklahoma a run for their money in recent years. Would love to see them give LSU a run for their money this year. I just don't see it happening in Death Valley. So they drop the game to the Tigers. And then you have a key stretch here where Army can start picking up some wins. I think they beat UMass pretty comfortably. Beat them 44-7 last year. 329 rushing yards against the Minutemen. UMass still one of the worst teams in the country. No doubt about it. So Army wins that game comfortably. Then they play Air Force in Denver. This is a big game, too. I mean, it's one of those things where if you're not going to go bowling, if you're Army, Navy, Air Force, just beat the other military academies, right? Win the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. That's your bowl game. That's what would be great. If you can't go to a real bowl game, win that. It's how you do against Air Force and Navy if you're Army. That's going to dictate that season. It dictate if you can win the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. Air Force in Denver. They lost to the Falcons 13-7 last year, but it should be noted that after years and years of struggles, Army has won 4 of the last 6 games against Air Force, and the last 5 games have been decided by 1 possession. So Army and Air Force have traditionally played each other very, very close. I think this year is no exception. I think Army plays Air Force very, very close again. This time, Army comes out on top. They lost by 6 last year. I think they get a 1-possession win this year. Air Force is solid. Defensively, per usual under Troy Calhoun, is solid. But the problem for Air Force is they lose their star quarterback in Hazik Daniels, and they lose their star rusher, Brad Roberts. That's a huge blow that people don't realize. Over 1,700 rushing yards last year, 17 touchdowns for Roberts. He's not going to be with the Falcons this year. I think they figure stuff out by November, but that void is going to be very, very noticeable. Army takes advantage of it defensively. In a close game between 2 teams with very similar styles, Army gets the win in Denver and beats Holy Cross the very next week as well. So just like that, Army has 6 wins. They've got 6 wins, but that's not good enough to go bowling because they beat Holy Cross and Delaware State. They've got 2 wins over FCS teams. They've got to win 1 more because of the way the schedule lines up. Could it come against Coastal Carolina? I don't think so. I think they lose to Coastal. They lost them 38-28 last year. I know the Chanticleers are dealing with a new coach, Tim Beck, coming in to replace Jamie Chadwell. 14 starters are back, though, for the Charlotte, including just about everybody offensively. Grayson McCall, their top 2 rushers, their top 4 pass catchers. 6 starters on defense that only gave up 202 yards to Army last year. So, I mean, this is rushing yards, I should say. This is a good Coastal team. A very strong Coastal team. That's actually, I think, going to exceed expectations despite the new coach. Army gets to host at home. You would like to think they can get this win to avoid having the Navy game be the do-all, be-all, whether or not they go bowling. But I think Coastal offensively is just too strong. It's close again. Coastal gets the win, which sets it up. Army versus Navy. Army wins. They go bowling. They lose. They finish 6-6 and stay home for the second year in a row. I love this game, guys. I mean, it's America's game. It is one of the most highly anticipated games of the year. The only college football game on December 9th, right before bowl season starts. It's one of the greatest spectacles, really, and rivalries and traditions in all of college football. I don't think we talk about it nearly enough. Army, again, like Air Force, after years and years of struggles, has found themselves against Navy. They've won 5 of the last 7 against the midshipmen, including last year's 20-17 double overtime thriller. It was phenomenal game. You look at Navy this year, dealing with a new coach, many would go, oh, that's not good. But Brad Newberry, he's been at Navy. He understands the culture. He understands the offense. He knows how to win with the midshipmen. So it's not really a true new coach. 17 starters are back to the midshipmen. Like Army, that's very unusual for a military academy. Not very often you see that much experience coming back in a military academy. Navy last year, 4 games. They only won 4 games, 4-8, but 5 games were decided by 1 possession. 5 losses, I should say, by 1 possession, including the loss to Army. This Navy team was way better than their record showed last year. I think they show up this year and beat Army. I think this is a Navy team that should go bowling. I think you finally see, the Navy team that we should have seen last year, you will see this year. The experience, the newfound life with the new coach. Obviously, both teams are going to be up for this game in Foxborough, I should add. So kind of changing the location on it. It's not in Philadelphia. I like Navy in this game in a close one. It's going to be close per usual, but I think the experience that Navy brings back, the continuity that Navy brings back, and knowing that Navy should have been better than their record showed last year, I think these guys are going to be hungry. Factor in revenge, too. Navy should have beat Army last year. This kind of fumbled it away down the stretch. They will defeat the Black Knights, and Army for the second year in a row finishes 6-6, which for everybody else is good enough to go bowling, but because they will have 2 wins over FCS opponents, Army, unfortunately, will not get to go to a bowl game. And I hate doing that. I want to pick them into the postseason. Maybe they get 1 extra win in there. Maybe they beat Boston College and Troy. Maybe they beat Coastal Carolina or Navy. The games are there. They're winnable games. I just think they fall a little bit short. But Jeff Monkey's still doing a phenomenal job. Army's still a very competitive team, unlike they were years and years ago before he kind of arrived there. It's still going to be a tough out. Army falls just short. 6-6, though. Nothing to hang your hat about. Nothing at all. And a win over Air Force. Nothing to hang your hat about either. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. And of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com, our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round, our mailing address to send us some gear to be featured every single GE video. I'd love to get, again, that military representation, Army, Air Force, Navy, especially so we can have that, again, for every single video all season long as we expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.